Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. I appreciate it. I know lots of excitement with the DDA meeting for coming. You all should have received the packet on Monday. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from June. So we haven't met for a while, but we haven't had any items to act on, so we didn't want to meet just for the sake of meeting. So if you would... if you have reviewed the minutes from the June meeting, I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
Support.
Okay, thank you. Well, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion's carried. The second item is the acceptance of the financials from November 30th. That was also included in your packet. And I usually say this just for clarification, but there's usually a number of small items, but it's really our share of the expenses that the Downtown Alliance incurs on our behalf.
Yep.
Right?
DGRI. Yep.
DGRI.
Yeah. There's a split between DDA, TIFA, and the DID. And so those
Sometimes those numbers
share
seem
the admin.
very small, but it's just our percentage of it.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay. We can dig
knew
into
it.
that if
I
you'd
knew
like.
it.
You get back to us on that?
Yep. Ms. Chapman, who would normally present these, is not here today, unfortunately. But so yeah, we would look for approval of statement D.
Is
Or
it C?
It's C.
Statement
Sorry,
C with
for the
all of
TIFA,
the.
D for the DD.
Okay. So with the financials that were submitted, I'm asking for a motion to approve statement C.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll move approval.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify your support by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We passed the financials. The next item is the 6th and Canal Street Park Master Plan. And Mark, you've got some information for us, right?
Yes,
Thank you.
a little bit. So, I think that this was before you guys in April. And it was a fairly robust presentation at
Yes.
that time with the consultant and the Parks Department. So I don't have a lot of updated graphics at the moment, but as you remember, there are many foundational elements to the park within the design process, and I'm not going to read all of those, but I think one of the important ones for many people is simply the flood protection and resiliency, and I'll touch on how that impacts the design a little bit. So you can see how it ebbs and flows with the way that the river moves adjacent to it. And then some of these are elements that the design group has sort of tried to implement into the project or be inspired by while they're designing the project. So again, connectivity, and connectivity is not just about connecting to the park, but also connection to the river. So there's a lot of potential avenues here where you can get down and touch the water and be close to the water. So that's a core piece of this redesign. And then obviously the ecological health along the river's edge, which is something that we're doing and considering on any of these land-water interfaces in our downtown, because there's a lot of opportunity for that. Flexible uses, I'll get into that a little bit more. Just how we begin to think about programming, the opportunities for programming. We've been exploring a lot of that, in particular with the Welcome Center at City Built, and how that began to activate that park and have other events get spurred from it. So we're excited about that, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. So the parks that we're talking about here really are two different technical parks. There's the 6th Street Park, which is basically from Newberry to the highway, and that's currently really where the skate park is. It's 555, the substation, which sits approximately right here. And then Canal Park, which is on the other side of Newberry and runs all the way to approximately Linear. This is where the Welcome Center approximately was. If you don't know it, you probably know this, but it collapsed with that big snowfall that we had. So this is a large view. I'm really going to focus on Canal a little bit here because 6th Street is a much longer term project. That's where they're staging to get into the river when they do the in-water work, so we're not really touching that. It also happens to be a much more expensive endeavor because of a variety of things. So expanding that view a little bit, this is the 6th Street area. And you can begin to see how, I think highlighting here is just, this is all like sort of access to the water. Currently, this blue line is a flood wall, so you don't get down by the water at all. So this is going to give us the opportunity to be able to get closer to that space. This plan envisions something else happening in that substation area. So that substation has to be removed. There's ongoing conversations about that, and we're optimistic that that's going to actually happen. Just as a point of reference on that project, current estimates for that is about $29 million. They estimate that this area between the substation and the highway is about $15 million, and then the substation relocation and stuff is a $10 million effort, and then this stuff from the substation over to Newberry is about a $4 million effort. So that's about the chunk that we're talking about at a very early concept level stage. So Canal, going into Canal, this is the one that is most tenable today. I mean, a little bit of a highlight on the schedule. And this is probably new information, so this is a little bit more refined from where we were last time. They plan to have the 30% review meeting with the city in January 27th is the scheduled time for that. The city design team will be February 8th. The 60% review set will be done around the end of February, and they're submitting for an Eagle permit at that time. So about February 24th is when they plan to submit for the Eagle permit. That's an important date, and it's the thing that probably gives us the most variance in our projections of when this can start because of our experience with past Eagle permits. So we're hopeful that this one goes a little bit smoother and allows us to continue to move the project forward towards construction. 90% would be estimated to be done probably in March. The LUDS permit, which is the permit set for this at the city level, would be submitted end of April. Bidding would occur most of May, so the beginning of May to the end of May, and that would set us up for a construction time frame starting in July of 2023 and going through July of 2024. So the park would be under construction during that period of time. We don't know if that means that the whole thing gets taken offline or we can do it in a series of increments. I'm hoping that it's a series of increments so that we can still use it in some forms. But I think the desire to get it all done all at once is really pushing us to take that bite and want to get it done so we're not doing it over multiple seasons. And I think a couple highlights to this plan you'll see right here is this pavilion. This is roughly where that Welcome Center is or was. So it's going to be a permanent pavilion. So we piloted something for a few years. It really worked well. It drove the design of this, and now we're going to think about doing something more permanent there. So I think that's a win in the sense of like programming and activation. The trail that you see here that runs along the park is actually the highest point of the park, and that's actually the flood infrastructure. So that's important in the sense that this is also some of the money that's coming to support this project from the construction standpoint is coming from flood bonds because that's flood infrastructure. That'll be the high point. There's going to be a new playground that sets up right here I think I have some images of that. That's been a point of a lot of design and a lot of discussions with neighborhoods and other stakeholders about what the update of that playground looks like. And then just some of the financial pieces and parts of this. So I mentioned the flood bond. That's about 1.8 million investment for this park. Monroe North Tifa has in their budget today, this fiscal year budget, $750,000. So we anticipate that we would be coming to you eventually to ask for that to support this project. We may carry it over to the next fiscal year depending upon project logistics. And then the millage is paying for the parks millage is paying for $450,000 on the project. The total project costs are estimated at $6.5 million. So what that tells us is that we have about a $3.5 million gap. And so we have to start thinking about what that means and how that's funded in the future. So our commitment is to get this project underway and constructed within that time frame. So we'll be working towards that goal in the future. And I think that that's all of the slides that I have. Yes. So are there any questions? Did I miss anything? Yeah. Cam?
The pavilion, will that be a covered pavilion?
Yes.
Okay, because that Welcome Center has been a great
Yes.
asset to that area. And the other thing is there any consideration being given to the addition of public art or sculpture in that park?
Yes, absolutely. So there's discussions not only with art, but also with plantings. A lot of engagement with the Ottawa Band in terms of what kind of plantings might be appropriate. So they've done a lot of engagement with that group.
Oh, that would be exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question. Can you go back to that screenshot of the park, the aerial, that one? Have we had any conversations with the lofts there at 6th Street with that parking lot next to them? I mean, you probably know it's pretty.
This
on the
one
other
here,
side of
or
no,
on the
the
other
other
side?
side of 6th Street, right next to their condos.
Yeah.
That space. I mean, we all know what it looks like. I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity that we can maybe support some enhancements, even if it's just like some tree plantings or something.
Good
I mean,
point.
it's not well maintained.
Right.
It's kind of gravel and then
Yep.
some broken
Yep.
asphalt.
Yep.
I mean, we're doing, $6 million of investment in the park,
Yep.
and then you have this large space that's pretty poorly maintained.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Maybe something that we can talk to the Parks Department and the designer to think about either screening that in a better way or working with that entity that owns it. I think it's DeVries that owns
It is
that.
DeVries.
So having some conversations, because I agree that one, they actually own the one on the other side of
I
the
know.
street as well, which we've contemplated, thinking about, well, is there an opportunity to incorporate that into the park more? The one thing I didn't mention when we're talking about these parking lots is all of the other city parking lots that are in these parks are going away and becoming park space. So I think that that's a huge transition from use and really expanding the usable space that's in the park. So yes. So you can see here, like this is a parking lot right now. There's also a parking lot right over here by Linear. So that's all becoming just park space now. So the park itself gets wider and more usable from a park standpoint. And I think that if we go back to this one, that also shows the parking
Right.
lots going away. So it's a big shift, and it's something that has been in the plan really right from the beginning, and there's been a lot of support for that from a variety of folks, not only stakeholders, but also Mobile GR in the city of Grand Rapids. So it's something that it's been in place for so long, I sometimes forget to mention it, but it's a huge change in our land use in the park.
And with all the parking ramps that are being
Yes.
added, people have to walk a couple
Yes,
blocks, but
yes.
there's gonna be ample
Yes.
parking space with the ramps.
Yep.
Question?
Way over there.
Apologize if I missed it. Did I hear you say that there's potential or probability that substation could be moved?
Yes.
That's shocking, and I'm elated
Yeah.
about that. I mean,
So are we.
I had always heard that it couldn't be done. Can you talk a little more about that? I mean,
I don't have a whole lot more
well,
details.
particularly, that, I wouldn't think that could be done quickly. So you probably have to build around that until they can.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at the way that this park is designed, it's really in 3 different phases, you know, so it's this piece from the substation location to the highway is one chunk, and then this little sliver of where that substation is, and then everything to the north of that substation as a separate phase. So I think that a lot of, it's interesting, you know, I think the most, probably within the last couple of years, because of the amount of investments that are happening in Monroe North, the ideas of relocating that have become more feasible just because of the amount of investment that's happening, and continues to be. I mean, there's empty sites up here that are being looked at for development sites, so I think it's very encouraging.
Second thing that I'm curious about, you talked about the trail being the flood level.
Yeah.
But that playground that you showed was between that trail and the river, which means it's in the floodplain. How does that work? If the river, if we do get a large rise in the river, is it gonna wash away the playground?
I think that the elevations that they're talking about with the trail is the 100-year flood level plus 3 feet. So, which is now a city goal, right?
It's a FEMA requirement. They're now actually, it's technically the 500-year floodplain.
500?
It's on the other, yeah, it's not like at river level.
Right. So it's at the 100-year floodplain, but and this, you've probably already noticed this, even on the west side, we added onto our flood walls to meet that new requirement by FEMA, or else all of the downtown properties would be paying a ton of money for flood insurance. So anyway, so that's why you're starting to see these 2 tiers of flood protection.
So if we do have one of those events that would affect that playground, that's probably gonna be the least of our worries. Yeah.
Right.
Probably, yeah.
I'll probably be a little more worried about our wastewater treatment facility,
And-
which we have
That helps,
also
thank you.
increased support for.
The existing restroom stays, so that's here. So that the park is roughly at the level of that restroom. The restroom is roughly at the level of the trail as it intersects that. So you're not as low as you might be like going north or south. These areas will be much lower, you know, and so they'll accommodate that flux of water. So I think that the interesting thing about both of these parks is that in this new alignment, you're essentially creating a series of rooms in the parks, and so this room is actually facing the river, whereas this room is facing all of the stuff along the street. So you've got some different dynamics that can occur in these parks. It's less noticeable in Canal simply because Canal is a lot narrower park. It's surprising when you look at these 2 things and see the amount of land and depth in one and then the amount of land and depth in the other.
There are expressways across the river and then at the end of this park area. Can anything be done to mitigate some of the noise that comes from traffic in these parks?
You're talking about like this one right here?
Yeah, I mean,
I think that in this particular design, there is, this is where the skate park is shown. So that's sort of this hardscape that's buffering the park from that infrastructure. I think that the interesting thing within our GR Forward plan is we actually, one of the concepts actually begin to show some development right along this edge here that would maybe buffer that from the park. So you'd actually get some building there that would allow for that. But I think that that's probably a bigger, longer-term discussion about whether that's feasible or not based upon how that property was acquired.
yes, and I know.
I wonder if there's an
I
opportunity.
would like to see a building there. That is what was in Tier Forward. And I think it makes a lot of sense to have something there to buffer the highway. The tricky thing with the MD&R Trust Fund,
Yes.
that's how we purchased this property. There is an opportunity through MD&R Trust Fund that if you have property that was acquired using those funds, if you have a comparable piece of land that is, so let's say we want to take, how big is that space where the skate park is? Like half a acre,
It's
you
about
know,
a half acre.
half an acre would be my guess. So let's say we wanted to take a half an acre and create a building envelope on this space, we'd have to find a comparable piece of property with similar, that's situated similarly. So it'd have to be that's half an acre along a river, comparable. It'd have to be privately owned, and you could do a swap. So there is a process through MD&R Trust Fund. There's a process to do that. It just takes some time. And a number of folks would have to be engaged to
Right.
make that happen. So I think it's a possibility,
I think it's something to
especially
think
with the
about.
development happening down on 201. I think there's a real opportunity for us to see if we can find a comparable piece of property and then do a swap that would at least open up the opportunity for us to do something on this site that could be a buffer, but also potentially create revenue to support
Right.
the green space, the programming. It could be a long-term lease. It could be a number of different things.
That was the point I was gonna make, in addition to screening, importance is just revenue streams.
Yep.
We think, I mean, with all of these, we're thinking about maintenance,
Yes.
long-term sustainability,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
all of that plays into
Yeah.
a development there.
And with all of these, and I alluded to this earlier, with these kind of green spaces, this is actually a huge space, right? I mean, you don't get the full magnitude of it today just because of the way that it's kind of chopped up. But if you're building these two green spaces, that's a lot of space to maintain and program. And so I think that these are always, when you're looking at a drawing like this, you don't sometimes fully appreciate the amount of space that's there. So a building doesn't necessarily prohibit us from still having a really magnificent park. It just does some other things that might help that park long-term in terms of programming, activation, maintenance.
Do we introduce speakers and music within our parks?
I think that in this particular case, I'll go to Canal, because of the amount of programming that has happened there over the last 2 years, a lot of which we've collaborated with City Built and Linear on. They've brought in a lot of like bands. Like there's a big program during the summertime, as you probably all are aware. And one of the biggest problems with that is just the infrastructure that has to be brought in to make that work.
Yeah.
So as we start to have those conversations at the level of about 60% completion, those are the kind of details that we have to be more aware of in terms of what kind of power are we, basic things, like what kind of power are we putting in? And I think
Yeah.
just interestingly enough, you were part of the conversations with Lion Square when we were talking about that. We've done it at Van Andel Arena with putting power in strategic locations, both 20 amp, 30 amp, and 50 amp, because it's gives us some
Yeah.
flexibility with all kinds of different programming.
I guess I was thinking of canned music.
Yeah.
And, to even temporarily mitigate traffic noise.
Yep.
Music might be a solution.
That's an idea, yeah.
Yeah. But I like your swap thing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you, Mark.
thanks.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Some of you get to listen to Bill and I all over again. I know you're super excited.
See if they hit all their lines.
Yeah.
We're gonna spice it up.
It's a test.
Mix it up.
So this year's World Winter starts in 2 weeks. 2-month-long festival, and we've got over 100 different activities, installations, and programming events going on during the duration. We have public art installations that we specifically curate for ourselves, our team, and then we have offer grants to local artists. So this is just showcasing 3 of the installations that we have purchased in the past 3 years, one of which is in Monroe North, the Manitou Bawating. So that, of course, will be back. And then this year we have purchased 5 installations. One of which will be at Lions Square in the current little amphitheater space by Valerie Wahana, which is one of those like light, I don't know, projectors that you put in your kids' room that like makes the sky all, or your ceiling all wonderful. So basically a giant 9-foot art installation of that. We also purchased these blow-up tentacles. These will be going over at DeVos Place, right outside of the Gillette Bridge on the balcony. But the cool thing about this is we get to bring her anywhere we want, whenever we want. So we might pop her in and out of buildings and public spaces on a regular basis. So we're pretty excited for her. We have 2 rainbow trees coming, both are which in Monroe North. One's in Canal and one's in 6th Street Park. And then we have the Heart Disco. This is going in the, I always call it the 5 corners of downtown, right on Monroe and like where Louis Camp House statue is. And then we have the giant Light Bright made by Lightzilla, and this is coming out at events specifically because we can't leave it out for the public to take those pegs because I know they will do it. So we're bringing it at events that are curated through Megan, our events manager on our team. So like silent disco, stuff like that. So that will definitely be in Monroe North as well. We have, these installations are from OGE Group out of Israel. We have House of Cards that's going on Calder Plaza. And then Angels of Freedom going on the Blue Bridge. The cool thing about House of Cards is they work with a few of our local artists. That was part of the contract. We want to make sure that local artists are getting involved and getting experience with international artists. So 10 of our local artists were able to create their own individual card that is then going to be shown on Calder Plaza with the other cards from all over the world. But then they also get to travel to other countries and cities after Grand Rapids, which is really cool. So some of our local artists will become international artists. We're really pumped about that. We also have Roaming Gnomes and Affinity. These come in February. Roaming Gnomes is going to Anabwin Park, and we get 8 of these. And they're all different. They all have their own personalities. One's like taking a picture with a camera. They're all different. They're all unique. And Affinity will be going at 555. Then, and both of those are from Australia. And then Light Art Collection coming out of the Netherlands. We have Talking Heads, and this is going on the Gillette Bridge. And then we have Starry Night, and that's going at Anabwin Park on the stage. We have 2 different projection installations. One will be going right where it's shown at the outside of the Graham on Monroe Center. This is through a grant. And then we have Tropical Tundra, which is going in the tunnel at Anabwin Park underneath the Gillette Bridge. They're both, well, Tropical Tundra in particular is more of like an immersive experience. So we'll have sound and light and all that. And then these are just a few of examples of the grants that we're sponsoring for local artists. So we put in about $150,000 in total in support of local artists to be able to do their own installations that they want to do. So these are just showcasing some of that. We're able to fund over 20 through this program in particular, and over 90% of which are women or of minority, which is exciting. Katie, correct, help me out. Valerie's installation is called Prickly. Thank you. 'Tis the season to be prickly. So these are giant cacti wearing ugly sweaters. These are going at 555. Also, the Muse Pod is going at 555. So they're doing their own events throughout World of Winter happening in that pod as well that we're able to fund. Then we have our own events and programming that we'll be doing. Human Hungry Hippo Tournament at Rosa Park Circle. Paint the Park at Rosa Park Circle. We'll have a luminary light walk with music over at Anabwin Park. Snow Snake competition is happening at 6th Street Park with the Grand River Bands of Ottawa Indians. We're going to make this pretty big this year. We're really excited to launch this. There's no one else in Michigan that's doing it. It's pretty rare, and it's a significant cultural event. We're also doing a fire and ice event for the first time at Rosa Park Circle. We'll have Valentine's sculptures, so sculptures all throughout downtown. Lots of walking tours and our digital scavenger hunt. So we'll do ice sculpture walking tours, Black History walking tours, public art walking tours. And I think that's it. We'll do ice park and mini food truck rally this year at 555 as well. Story hours, which will happen over at Studio Park. We did this last year with Lunar New Year's, and we're expanding to add more cultural programming with other cultural institutions and organizations. We have Silent Disco happening at 555 again. Winners of Drag is happening over on Calder Plaza, and we're bringing in Brooklyn Heights, who is the Queen of the North. So big deal. And Noodle Fest this year will also be teaming up with the Asian Pacific Islander Festival, again, to be able to host this. And then I'm going to pass the torch.
For those of you that aren't aware, Kim is coming off of like a 10-day European trip, and yeah, so doing a phenomenal job. And I joked with the DDA board that there's just a couple events for us to promote and a few things to try to get the word out about. So you'll see, I'll go over our sort of high-level paid strategy, talk a bit about what Experience GR is doing. They're coming in as a really wonderful partner, not just this year, but in years past, and they're doing some significant ad buys to promote this, so we're really excited about that. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of our goals for earned media as well. So as you can see here, we're doing a good mix of print, digital, radio, and then out-of-home or outdoor advertising. I mentioned DDA board with review. We typically do a full-page ad with review every month. In the summertime, that's Relax at Rosa promotion or any other events we have going on. We've done some retail and business promotion recently for Third Thursdays and things like that. But for World of Winter, we just do December, January, February, we do all World of Winter promos. That demographic for review is, their biggest demographic is 18 to 45-year-olds, folks that tend to go out for live entertainment, dining and drinking. So we try to focus some of our more youth-oriented events like Silent Disco and Winters of Drag on the review ads. 15,000 monthly magazines distributed for free around 550 sites around GR, and a little bit of regional coverage. West Michigan Woman is a paid subscription magazine you all are probably familiar with. So we'll be landing in their February-March issue, which actually will hit mailboxes at the end of January. So we're doing a sort of family-focused and female-focused advertisement there. They have 11,000 paid subscribers, I want to say, and they have a really solid digital reach as well, so we'll be doing some social partnership with them and promo there. Billboards, we're going to have one static billboard that will go up near the end of January, as you can see here, that will just be a general World of Winter, point folks to the website, boast largest winter festival in the Midwest, and we actually have Trey, our intern, looking into festivals around the country to see if we can start to claim largest winter festival in the United States, because I think we probably are. So anyways, the billboard will be, the static one will be at Wealthy and 131 northbound, the one right there by the downtown market. So that'll catch a lot of eyeballs going north. And then we'll have 5 digital locations that'll roam around depending on availability. Doing some radio ads with La Mejor to reach the local Spanish-speaking audience via radio. Media place partners, I mentioned to DDA, I'm not going to attempt to explain the digital targeting that goes behind this stuff, but rest assured it's quite sophisticated based on our digital social audiences, local searches and preferences around events, activities, winter activities, local news, and these will land, these ads will land for the whole festival, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Google searches about 3 to 5 times a week. So we partnered with them last year. They can really dial into who's seeing these and how we can target them better. So that's an exciting digital effort that we'll be putting up. Oh, Spotify as well, I should mention. All of those digital outlets do a Grand Rapids plus 30 miles radius, and then Spotify uses the Grand Rapids DMA, designated marketing area, which is pretty standard for ad buys. And then we're looking at trying to get some ads on dash buses or regular buses or both to try to get some bus reps done there. Talking with YCE about what level of promotion we want to do here locally. And then Experience, as I mentioned, they're taking their focus more statewide and a little bit regionally, so it complements our local efforts really well. They are going to be doing Michigan radio promos throughout the festival. Little Guy Detroit is a really cool platform and online sort of publication and community that focuses on family-friendly activities. So they have a huge following in Metro Detroit and a little bit statewide. So Experience is going to do some paid placement with them, as well as work with a couple of social media influencers that they work with to really try to promote the family-friendly stuff that we have going on throughout World of Winter, to draw some folks from the other side of the state up here to enjoy those experiences. And then you can see some of the radio work they're doing. Like I said, they've just been great. This is for Experience, as they've relayed to me, having something like this in the early winter months, well, they call it second winter, is what Janet calls it, yes. But having something in January when things typically slow down from a retail and restaurant perspective, they say is really, really wonderful. So they really enjoy helping us promote it. One thing I want to note, one of our DDA board members, Jermail Eddy, pointed out a lack of targeted advertising to the African American community. So I was just speaking with him. This is a gap we realize that we have. So we're going to be exploring some options with the Grand Rapids Times and a couple local radio stations that cover Grand Rapids and Muskegon, because we do recognize that that's a community we don't want to miss here locally and regionally. So I'm grateful for him to pointing that out. And then on the earned media side, we've already had a couple pieces of earned media in November when we sort of announced some of our big international installations on our social channels. There was some good interest there. And then we've got a couple lined up. First week of the festival, we're going to be doing a couple lives with Fox 17, and then we're talking with our other local TVs. Typically, there will be some earned media hits throughout the festival. They like to come out and cover the installations. They like to come out and cover the events. Our events team, who has been absolutely working their tails off, has said, if you could handle the sort of like 5 a.m. live appearances, they'd appreciate that. So you'll probably see me tired and full of coffee some mornings throughout the festival. And then just a couple other notes on the earned side. This is from the travel.com. It's a national travel online publication. And this story, this list that we made, was a direct result of Experience GR doing some direct pitching of this publication with their PR firm that they work with. So this is really a great example of partnership, a great example of the reach of our social media and the importance of our social media. We landed 8 out of 10. We'll send you the link that you can see this list. I think we should have been much higher in the list. But we are among really good company on this list. St. Paul, Minneapolis, Aspen, I think Anchorage is on there as well, some in the upper Northeast. So we're in really good company, and this, as the festival continues to build, I think we're only going to get more recognized for all of the wonderful activities and events and art that we have. And then just wanted to include these. We didn't have to even do any pitching or anything of that nature for a couple of the locals. This was all related to when we did our first social post about the big international installations. So The draw and the interest is there already, which is fantastic. It makes our job from a communications perspective that much easier. And then lastly, I just want to thank Kim and her team. They are just absolutely crushing it from an organizational side. This is an enormous lift every year. And then our graphic designer, Max, and our communications specialist, Nancy, they're really running hard on the comm side of things. So, and Marion with the data, where is she? She's probably crunching data. Yeah, Marion helps us track all of the attendance and helps us inform future plans and current data. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions for me or Kim, we'd be happy to take them.
It's great, it's exciting.
Tons of stuff.
About tracking audience, in terms of people who come, do you track where they're from?
Yes. So I won't be able to speak with nearly as much expertise as Marion can, but Placer, the service we use, can tell if it can tell if folks are residents of the downtown area or if they're coming from outside of downtown. I think we can parse regional, and as far as we want to go, we get demographic data. That tool that we have is phenomenal.
Also, like income. It also tracks where they went prior to an installation, how long they stayed at an installation, what business they went to after, where they stayed at a hotel. So we know what's going on.
Well, it aggregates information, so it's not individual. But
Yes.
We're not watching.
But we're still watching.
Yeah. Again, this is I won't be able to speak with a lot of deep expertise on this, but I do know that they have Placer AI, who we use, has thresholds for. It's got to be. We have to reach a certain count of individual people before they'll actually even give us the data. Because theoretically, if it said 10 people visited this area at this time, there are ways you could figure out who those 10 people were. So they take their privacy stuff very seriously. One other thing I'll mention, and we can chat with Experience Grand Rapids about this, is I think they are using some new data tracking tools that can show, like, I think they can get as sophisticated as this person visited Frederick Meyer Gardens and came downtown to do this thing. So when we get clear of the event, we'll put something together with them that'll hopefully paint a pretty detailed picture.
Any other questions? It's exciting, it's a lot. Yeah, just a few.
Just a couple things. Yeah,
just a couple of things.
Just 100 or so.
Yeah.
No, it's really
amazing.
It's pretty great. Yeah. Kudos to Kim and the team.
Thank you both.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Tim, do you have a report?
Yeah, I was just going to hit on three things.
Okay.
I know we're running late, but wanted to highlight our River Construction Coffee Conversations event that's happening at the Grand Rapids Public Museum. That's on January 11th. That's a networking event for small businesses and large contractors to show them some of the opportunities that are happening along the river as construction comes along. So excited to see that moving forward. I think most of you are aware, but in the Tiffin neighborhood, Noodle Pig opened up and has been a huge success. And if you haven't been yet, go check it out. And then I'm sure Deidre was going to mention this, but just wanted to let everyone know that is not aware the Business Association from Monroe North has their holiday party tomorrow at Sandy Point Beach House, starting at 5 p.m., right? Okay.
It's unfortunate, I didn't realize it was at the same time as Commissioner Lear's party. But if you want to start your
Tis the
evening out there
season,
for even
right.
5 or 10 minutes or end it there, we would love to see everyone there.
That was all I wanted to hit. I'd have to take any questions or allow for board discussion.
Questions for Tim? Thank you. Next item is public comment. Do we have any public comment? All right. Board member discussion?
If you want public comment, you can just attend some of my meetings.
Oh, you've got
Commission meetings,
you've got some you share. Yeah. Anything from the board members? Anything else?
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy holidays. Thank you all for your service.
Yeah.
So many
Appreciate it.
exciting things.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So we're officially adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Appreciate it.